Just as a disclaimer, we want you to know that some of the movies that we will be reviewing were shot in a different time and era where people of race and sex were not treated equally. We understand this and hope you do too. The movies or anything that happened on the sets are not the views of this podcast or what this show is intended to be all about.
Exactly. And we want to give due diligence in presenting the movie and not the views of the cast or directors or anyone involved. But we also feel it's necessary to let the audience know some of the background information to get a feel for what was happening at the time of shooting the film. Again, we hope you understand that we do not agree with everything that went on, and we just want to give out the information. And with that being said, hope you enjoy the show.
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone. Millicent Barnes, age 25, young woman waiting for a bus on a rainy November night. Not a very imaginative type is Miss Barnes, not given to undue anxiety or fears, or for that matter, even the most temporal flights of fancy. Like most young career women, she has a generic classification as a, quote, girl with a head on her shoulders, end of quote. All of which is mentioned now because in just a moment, the head on Miss Barnes's shoulders will be put to a test. Circumstances will assault her sense of reality, and a chain of nightmares will put her sanity on a block. Millicent Barnes, who in 1 minute will wonder if she's going mad.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema podcast, the Twilight Zone series. I'm your host, Jimbo, and once again, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host,
A to Z here. Well,
okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Greetings from the fifth dimension.
You were stuck in the fifth dimension, I thought. Yeah,
Maybe.
We'll be discussing episode 21, Mirror Image. As we go through this, I know Eric and me will have difference of opinions on this episode. But
Possibly.
There's a lot of stuff that I found, some tidbits, some things that Eric may not have thought about. So I can't wait to dive into this. So Eric, let's take it away.
All right, let's do it. Mirror Image. This is the Twilight Zone of Season 1, Episode number 21. And it was directed by John Brom, and it was written by Rod Serling. The first original air date was on February 26, 1960. And I don't have any music section under this particular episode. Partly or largely probably due to the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of music other than the sound effects of the rain falling at the bus station and maybe some crescendo type music leading up to high points and scenes. There wasn't a whole lot of music in this episode, and that's another unique distinction about this episode. So Jimbo, do you want to take the cast? Because that's pretty much it on the basic facts.
Absolutely. This has one of my favorite actresses in it. I think she is just a beauty, and I think that her acting skills are fantastic. And that is Miss Vera Miles. She plays Millicent Barnes, which obviously I'm going to like her because she has my last name. But not only that, but she was in one of the second episode that Terrence and I ever did on a movie in Psycho, where she played Lila Crane. That's another fantastic movie, and her acting there is second to none in that too. But she was also in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, where she played Haley Stedman. I can't read my own handwriting sometimes. But I know Eric has found some other things about her he'd like to dive in a little bit to her. So, Eric, what else was she in, or what has she accomplished in her career?
Yeah, absolutely. She was a beauty, and it makes sense because she was born in Boise City, Oklahoma, and she has attended a school in Pratt, Kansas, and Wichita, Kansas, and she actually won the title of Miss Kansas in 1948. So she was a beauty queen. Not only was she a wonderful actress, she was a very lovely lady. She actually, as Jimbo kind of talked about a little bit, she caught the eye of Alfred Hitchcock, and she also caught the attention of several other directors, but so much that they actually dubbed her the new Grace Kelly. And I think Jimbo said that she was in Psycho, but she also was scheduled to play in Vertigo, but with Jimmy Stewart, but another great movie, by the way, which I think you covered Vertigo at one point in time.
Episode
but
10, I believe.
Yeah, okay, good. And she had to withdraw from Vertigo, I guess, because she was pregnant, and she was actually replaced with Kim Novak, which she went on to do a great job in that movie as well. And you mentioned The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. And there's a whole slew of other movies and TV shows from the late 50s and early 60s. She starred in a movie with Bob Hope called The FBI Story, a movie called Backstreet, which I haven't seen either one of those. The Backstreet was in 1961, and she was in the Alfred Hitchcock Hour TV show, obviously The Twilight Zone in 1959, The Outer Limits in 1963, Columbo in 1971, Murder, She Wrote television show in 1984. So yeah, on and on and on we could go. I mean, just a really amazing actress.
And just for the record, that was Backstreet the movie, not the Backstreet Boys, the singing group. Just to clarify
Thanks.
in case anybody was confused there.
Thanks for that clarification.
All right. Also in the cast, we have Martin Milner. He plays Paul Grinstead. I thought he did a superb job in this as well, but his main acting role came from a movie called Route 66, which he's probably most famous for. Joseph Hamilton. This guy in this episode is one of my favorites. He's the ticket agent. He's played a lot on the Andy Griffith Show, so that's why he kind of looks familiar. If you've ever seen the Andy Griffith Show, he's in several episodes. Naomi Stevens, she was the washroom attendant. She played in the movie The Apartment. I believe that's Jack Lemmon. Mrs. Mildred Dreyfus is who she played in there. Teresa Lyons was the old woman sitting at the bench. She was in The Music Man. Ferris Taylor, he was a passenger. And Edwin Rand, who was the bus driver, he was in a great sci-fi show called Tarantula, which if you've ever seen it, it's about like 100-foot giant spiders. It's pretty good. So the synopsis of this is very simple. And with this episode especially, they didn't really do a lot of scene changes. It was mostly focused in one room.
Yep. The bus depot.
Creativity,
yeah.
Perfect. But it's about a lady who is traveling to a new job in Buffalo, encounters herself in a train station.
Yep. And this might be a good time to bring up.
Actually, it's a bus station, not a train station. Sorry, it's technically a bus station. She's waiting on the bus. So.
Right. This might be a good time to bring up a word that's going to come in. Well, I don't think it's actually named in the episode, but oftentimes used in our culture today, and it's the word doppelganger, and it's a German word that literally means double walker. Is biologically unrelated, a lookalike, a double of a living person. In fiction and mythology, a doppelganger is often portrayed as a ghostly paranormal phenomenon and is usually seen as a harbinger of bad luck. Other traditions and stories equate a doppelganger with an evil twin. In more modern times, the term twin stranger is occasionally used. So the word doppelganger is often used in a more general, neutral sense and used as in slang and other things like that. So that leaves this question for me, Jimbo. Have you ever experienced this phenomenon? Have you ever seen a doppelganger before of yourself and have been taken aback by it?
I'd always heard that people have a twin in the world. I was at work one day, and this guy came over and he said, "Hey, come here." He said, "Man, you look like somebody I know." I said, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm going to have to pull up a picture or bring a picture in and show you." And he pulled it up, dude, and it looks just like me.
Really?
I didn't know there was two of the most handsome men in the world in the same earth. I mean, I'm just saying. You know what I mean? I was like, it can't be right. There's two of us that are beautiful. But, yeah, I've heard that. Something else. You ever get the feeling of deja vu?
Oh, yeah.
Like you've done something and you've done it before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely got that.
About parallel universes, like the TV show Fringe. Basically, there's a whole nother side where you're doing the exact same thing in another universe. Very interesting, very, very weird to think about at times. But before we get too much further, let me tell you a little bit about this, how this episode came about. It actually comes from Rod Serling on one of his real life experiences. He was actually pitching when he was talking to a Dutch television station. He claimed to have gotten this idea for mirror image following an encounter at an airport. Serling noticed a man at the other side of the terminal who wore the exact same clothes and carried the same suitcase as himself. Serling considered what would happen if the man turned around and was revealed to be a duplicate of himself. However, the man turned out to be a younger and more attractive version of him, as he has stated. So,
all right.
I mean, what would you do, Eric, if you got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or something, and you walked in your bathroom, there you are?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of questions, and I'll save the questions for the end. But I don't know what I would do. Yeah, it's sort of this paranormal phenomenon that seems to take place. And I think there are actually websites that you can go to and you can look up. Some are mythological stories, I think. Some are just, stories and folklore and tales about people having doppelgangers. And there's a lot of, questions that surround it. But yeah, that certainly would be something that would be really strange to experience. I haven't experienced it myself personally, but yeah.
All right, go ahead, jump in. Let's talk about it.
All right, let's jump into this episode. Let me get going here. Again, just to kind of follow the plot, we kind of open at the bus depot. It's raining very, very heavily, thunderstorming. We come inside the bus depot and we meet our main character, Millicent Barnes. I think Rod Serling starts his narration fairly early in the episode, which was typical in season one. He tended to stick to more of a stricter narration. It normally was very early in the episode in the first season. We meet Millicent Barnes, our main character, and she is a private secretary, we come to find out, and she is traveling to Cortland for a new job. And she looks at the wall clock and notices that the bus is late, so she approaches the ticket agent and asks him when the bus will arrive. And he guffly complains that this is her third time asking, and he is just really getting irritated, and she doesn't know why. It throws her for a loop. And he tells her, it was 15 minutes late, 15 minutes ago when you asked, it was 30 minutes, ago it was late, 30 minutes ago it was, he goes through this whole litany, and she's just like, no, this is like the first time I've asked you what time or when the bus was going to arrive. And, he basically tells her, no, you've been up here 3 different times. And she's just puzzled, like, no, this is the first time that I've been up here. And then she notices after a while that her bag is the same bag that she's using has been checked, and it's behind the ticket clerk's counter. And she looks back. Yeah, go ahead.
It even has the same broken handle, like taped up on the baggage too. So
yeah,
it is. She's like, it's the exact same bag. It's really peculiar that this exact same bag's here. It even has down to the broken handle.
Yeah.
One thing about the ticket agent I was going to throw in, he kind of reminds me of. You're a dad too, so it reminds me of when your kids were younger, and they would keep asking you, well, why? Why? Okay, I've answered this 100 times because I'm the dad. I said so. You know what I mean? Just he's got that attitude of like, look, lady, you're bothering me. I just want to sit here and read my newspaper. You know, you're bothering me.
Yeah.
And I thought he was just played it perfectly. I mean, because in my mind, I flash back to when my kids were young, and they would just be like, you know how they just go and go and go and go and go and go. You're like, you've asked this.
Yeah.
Stop. Let me have a moment of silence. Let me breathe.
Yeah, for sure. It reminded me of when my kids and I were on long road trips, and it's the "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there?" It's like, no, it's only been 30 seconds since you asked me.
Has the car stopped? Have we stopped? Have we gotten out at our destination? No, we're obviously not there yet. You know?
Right. So I can totally relate to the ticket agent's frustration. You know, assuming the fact that he's seen this. Well, it's already been revealed, I guess, that there are two Millicent Barnes, and, you know, her doppelganger is in the bus depot with her. Which, let me ask you this question, because this came up. Okay, if the ticket agent, and this comes up later in the quote-unquote powder room, when she's in the powder room, if the ticket agent can see the bag that's behind the counter, and then if you notice in that scene, she turns around because she's confused. She sees her bag behind the counter, and she turns around, and then the camera pans to the bag that's sitting by the bench where she was just sitting. Can the ticket counter person, can he not see both bags?
Let me ask you this question. While you're asking this question, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
When she gets up and she goes to the washroom, okay, and remember the door opens and she sees herself in the mirror sitting at the bench? When she comes out later in the episode, she talks to the old lady and she says, "Hey, have you seen anybody else in here?" And they're like, "No, I haven't seen anybody." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, is it where they can, is it where the doppelganger, when they see the doppelganger, they can only see one at a time? So,
yeah, that's my question. I don't know.
I think so. I think it's only where they can see one at a time because. Even though she could see him because it is her doppelganger, I don't believe that anybody else could see her at the exact same time. That's why you never see her both simultaneously in the washroom or simultaneously in the bus depot, simultaneously on the bus.
Right. Well, that makes sense that she can see both, but that other people can't, because I'm going to go back to the washroom scene. If you remember, we're getting ahead here, but that's okay. We're going to talk out of order a little bit, but this was a question in my mind throughout this whole episode, because, you know, other people can't seem to see the both at the same time. And that makes sense, your explanation, because I'm going back to the washroom. When she goes to open the door and her back is faced into the door frame and she sees her doppelganger in the mirror. If you remember, the washroom attendant is facing Millicent Barnes and she's talking to her. And so she's facing the lobby of the bus station. So why couldn't the washroom lady attendant, she could see both of them are in her plain clear view. Why couldn't she see both at the same time? But your explanation kind of makes sense as to why she couldn't see.
You're getting ready to make me dive into what my end statement right here and right now, because there's something early in the episode that I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there because this is going to throw you for a loop.
All right.
When she goes up to the ticket counter for the first time, okay, and she's talking to the guy, and she's like, the last time I asked, if you look behind her to the left, lit up is Dies, D-I-E-S, Dies.
Okay.
It's basically, I think, where it was the ladies' room, I think, and the L.A. was cut off.
Okay.
So my question becomes,
was that on purpose?
Is this not a doppelganger episode, but this is maybe stuck in like a purgatory?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Maybe it's not a doppelganger. Maybe there is some other things showing up throughout this episode where it's not the whole doppelganger episode. It's maybe something totally different because of the subtle hints that you see throughout the episode.
I didn't catch that. That's something that's interesting. Huh. Well, before we get too far down the rabbit hole, let's, I guess, maybe progress along the timeline of the episode. So she's really having an issue with the bag. at first she comes up to ask the ticket agent, about the timing of the bus and why it was late. Then she comes back up to bother him again about her bag, and she's like, well, that's my bag, but I never checked my bag. And then, he gets more irritated, and he's like, lady, what is your problem? And then she turns around, and then her bag that was just by the bench is gone. And so, we have the issue of the missing bag, the reappearing bag, over and over. The ticket agent is just like, leave me alone. Let me read my magazine, excuse me. And he's like, you'll know when the bus gets here because you'll hear a loud engine. It'll pull up to the door. A bunch of people will get off, and that's how you know the bus is here. And he basically is really curt with her and tells her to go sit down and shut up, basically. And then that leads into the next scene that we kind of already covered a little bit, where she goes into the washroom. The washroom attendant lady, I know you mentioned before, Jimbo, that she played in she was really good in this. I know it was a really small part, but I thought she played a really good part in the washroom lady. And she asks Millicent Barnes, are you all right, miss? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, why wouldn't I be fine? And then they have a conversation, and she was just like, well, when you were in here before, something. And she was like, in here before? I've never been in here. And Millicent kind of really gets indignant with her. And it's like, I've never been in this. This is the first time I've been in this room. And they have a conversation. And that leads up to the point that we just discussed. Really, wouldn't you call it like the climax maybe of the episode, where the ladies' room door opens?
At least the plot just picked up right here, I think.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely starts to increase in speed and intensity. And she goes to open the door, turns her back, and then looks into the mirror, and she sees her twin sitting on the bench behind her. And so that's where we get the first indication of the doppelganger. So we'll move on from the washroom scene, because we've kind of already talked about that a little bit. And the next scene, as we follow along, she goes back to the bench, and Millicent is completely confused at this point. And she starts thinking thoughts in her head, like, am I going crazy? I don't have a fever. I'm not sick. Like, is this all delusions? Is it, stress or anxiety? And is this where she approaches the older couple on the bench, right? The bench that's adjacent to her. And she asks them, did you see anyone sitting in my seat? And the older lady says, no, I really wasn't paying attention.
Well, they're both kind of asleep, so...
Yeah. And she says, well, I thought I saw someone that I knew. And then the older lady's like, well, in here? There's only like 3 people in here. How could you see someone that, you knew? Kind of, she's sort of bewildered.
All right,
and
I'm going to ask.
Go ahead, Jimbo.
When she leaves the couple and she goes and sits back down, if you look in the background, the suitcase is not behind the ticket counter anymore.
Right, it's back by her bench where she was sitting again.
Bench.
Okay, so what's the meaning of that? What do you think is the underlying?
Is the backpack only, or is the suitcase only visible when her doppelganger is present? The other one.
That you might have just hit on something. That's really that would explain a lot.
Let me ask you another question. Is the times that we see the suitcase behind the counter actually the doppelganger talking to the bus attendant and not her?
Yeah, that would explain.
You see what I'm saying? Is as you see Vera Miles, Melissa Barnes, when you see her throughout the whole episode, is it actually her doppelganger in certain parts and her in other parts of the episode? Like, two different viewpoints.
Yeah, I think that
suitcases are moving around.
Yeah, that would explain the suitcases moving around. And I did read where they used like a string or something. I read that somewhere where they used it to move the suitcase around on the set, like back and forth. But yeah, I mean that's a great explanation as to why the suitcase is there, why it's not there, et cetera, et cetera. Well,
And
now
not only that,
sorry, go ahead.
but if it is in a alternate universe, is the ticket agent and the other people in there part of another universe too? Is there doppelgangers there too? You do not know, but they're not flipping out like she is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, when we come to the end of the episode, Paul Grinstead has his doppelganger. But anyway, well, I don't want to get too far. But
We haven't
let's
even met
try to
Paul
stay
yet.
on. So yeah, let's try. Well, we're gonna meet him right now. He comes into the bus depot, bus station, whatever, and he introduces himself to Millicent Barnes, and he says that his flight was all canceled, and he's trying to get to, where was he trying to get to? Was he trying to get to Buffalo?
Buffalo, I do believe.
I think it might have been Buffalo, one of those New York cities that are mentioned along the route. And anyway, he couldn't get on an airplane, so he had to take a taxi from the airport, and the taxi slid off the road and hit a tree about like a mile from the bus depot, and he has to walk in the pouring rain to the bus depot, so he's completely soaked. He sits down, he talks to Miss Barnes, and she starts to tell him, he asks her, which he plays a really good, Martin Milner plays a really good Samaritan here. Like,
Well, at least at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, well,
Because when he's calling his friend to come drive him up to where they need to go.
Yeah, but I don't think he was. Well, he could have easily, been a dude and taken advantage of a beautiful lady sitting on the bench. But he really plays it well. Like, he's really concerned about her welfare. He asks her, like, "Are you okay?" And she goes through the whole litany of the story of how she's seeing double. And he tells her, look, there's got to be some kind of explanation. There's got to be some like reasonable, logical explanation. And he's like, look, this is a little too metaphysical for me. All of this crazy phenomenons and doppelgangers and all that stuff. And he's like, there's got to be some kind of logical explanation for what's happening to you. And he really does seek to help her. But I think, honestly, I know you brought it up, Jimbo, but like at the end where he actually calls the police, which we'll get there in a minute, but I think he just didn't know what to do. Like, he was genuinely concerned about her, and I think he even had some reservations, maybe even some regrets after he did what he did and calling, because he thought maybe she was mentally unstable. And go ahead.
Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it in a minute. But I think the reason, well, we'll just keep going right now. So basically, he's sitting here, he's like, there's got to be an explanation. Maybe somebody's here pulling a joke on you. Maybe your twin's here running around somewhere. And she's like, well, yeah, that could be it. You know what I mean? So to fast forward this, get through the episode a little bit quicker, the bus pulls up. And she grabs her suitcase, right there, which means she never checked her suitcase to begin with because it is sitting right there beside her. And
Right.
he's like, let me carry that for you, and I'll carry that for you. So they go out to the bus stop, or the bus pulls in, and she hands him the ticket, and she rips her ticket, and then he gets his ticket, and they rip his ticket, and she looks up, and you don't see anything. You just hear like give like this shriek and run back inside the bus station. And Paul runs back after her. I call him. Is his name Paul? Yeah, Paul. He runs.
Yeah, his
back
name's
after
Paul.
her. And it fades back to the bus window, and inside the window, sitting by the window seat, is Melissa Barnes. And it cuts to a commercial break. This episode has so much going on all around it that, I mean, it's amazing. If you look in the windows of the bus, you can see some other people in there. Some of them, man, they could be doppelgangers of other people in the bus depot. Just by looking at them,
Really?
so there's something
I didn't really pay
I
attention.
I can't really make it out, but it could be if you look at them closely. So now they've got her back inside, laying on a bench. Letting her head down. She's either passed out here or just asleep. I think she's still passed out. And the bus attendants, the bus driver's like, "Hey, is anybody going?" Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. Basically, she sees her doppelganger, just what you said, in the bus window, and she freaks out, runs back inside. So they come to Paul says, look, just go on without us. We're going to take the next bus, because she's obviously in big time distress, and she goes and lays down on the bench, and the next bus is until like 7 o'clock in the morning. And now Millicent insists that the strange events were caused by an evil double from a parallel world, and she starts telling Paul like there was something that she read or either heard. She's on the bench laying down, and she falls asleep. I don't know if she like passed out or whatever, but
right.
And
one thing real quick
Yep.
is when the washroom attendant is sitting there talking to him, she's like, "Hey, look, you're a good man," and she's like, "But I think she needs help," and she gives the old cuckoo symbol with her hand.
Yeah.
If you look behind her, what's it say on the wall?
I don't know. I'm not
check.
there.
It says check here, and it is right next to the washroom lady's head. So when she's going like this, so I think that was very interesting too. Beautifully shot. It just says check here in the background, and the lady's going like this.
Wow, you really caught a lot of small details there. That's a good.
I was just trying.
That's a good
trying
pickup.
to make sense of the episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good pickup. I didn't catch, and I've watched it probably 3 or 4 times, and I didn't catch that. But back to the episode, like where I'm at, and I'm on the scene that you just described, Jimbo.
Did you see
when
it?
she wait? Yeah, when she wait. Yeah, I'm seeing it now. Yes, I do see it now. That's one of the things that the hand motion that she makes was, goes back to why I thought she was such a good, small part, but she did very well as an actress in playing that part. Millicent wakes up from her nap and she starts, describing her explanation is in this metaphysical realm, you have a double, and then that double doppelganger sort of enters your dimension, and their sole purpose is to try to like take you out, basically, so they can overtake you and take over. Do you remember that part, Jimbo? And she starts to describe, her theory on what's happening. Go ahead.
Right, but I think we've overlooked something that is probably one of the best lines of the movie. Once they come back inside and they leave, the bus and the ticket guy comes by, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to shut down some of these lights here." And he says, "When not in use, shut off the juice."
Yeah.
And he's like, "That's what I always say." And he also has another one here where he comes up to her, or he's talking to Paul, and he said, "What's he say?" He says, "It looks like she's got a leak in her attic." I just think that he threw them one-liners out. The dude played an awesome part, man.
Yeah, those were good one-liners for sure. Yeah, those were great. So, Paul's confused. He doesn't know how to help her. He kind of makes up this story that he's going to call his friend that lives in Tully. And, he goes and has a private conversation with the bus ticket attendant. And the bus ticket attendant asks him, "Well, aren't you going to call your friend in Tully?" And he's like, "No, I made that up." Because he was, Paul was going to try to get her to go with him in probably like a taxi cab or something. And then he was going to drive her himself I'm assuming, drive her himself to the hospital or whatever. But instead he ends up calling the police, and, she goes into the powder room for a minute.
And she flips out in there.
Yeah,
She's
and then
like, "Okay, where are you? Where are you? I know you're here." You don't.
Yeah.
Now she really is getting kooky.
Yeah, and then he's waiting for her on the outside. He says, "Why don't we go outside and get some fresh air?" And at that point, they're like in the breezeway of the bus depot, and then the police car pulls up, which that whole scene. I know they had to move her out of the story so that they could move on with the story, but the police just show up and haul her away. There's no explanation. It was just kind of a weird scene.
Here's my question: how do they know that that's the lady?
Yeah,
they just if you watch the police, I guess it would be the co-captain or whatever, jumps out the side of the car, just grabs her. I mean, it's not like he didn't even look around, dude. He was just grabs her, throws her in the car. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And he just kind of gives a head nod to Paul and is like, "Yeah, we got her. We're out of here." There's no no luggage.
You don't even know
her suitcase, the infamous bag, it doesn't get taken. She's just get hauled away to jail, I guess, because for no reason really, just that she's having a mental breakdown. I guess
they're taking her to the hospital. They're not taking her to jail.
Yeah. And she even talks about that earlier in the episode. She's like, "I don't want to tell you." because you might want to move away to another bench, or you might want to call an ambulance or call the cops or something. I guess this is the late 50s, early 60s. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's how they did things back then. They just kind of threw you in the loony bin back in those days. There weren't a lot of mental health professionals, let's just say, back in those days.
And let's take a look at Paul's character. He's truly a gentleman this entire episode, because
absolutely
he could have got on the bus and left her.
Yep,
just left her. But number two, he stayed with her. The ticket agent turned out all the lights and everything. That could have been a very dangerous situation for a beautiful lady like that.
Yep.
Even in the 50s or wherever this is said. I just think that was great. So.
Yep, for sure. So we're approaching the end, right? Paul's by himself in the bus depot. He's going to wait on the 7:00 bus. The ticket agent has turned all the lights down, and then lo and behold, Paul gets up to get a drink of water, and lo and behold, his bag that he had just set down by the bench is gone. He looks to the door, and he says, "Hey!" He sees a man with a suit on, back to him, runs out, "Hey, hey!" And then we come to the climactic end of this episode. He's running after what we now surmise, or we can see, is his doppelganger, running down the sidewalk, and he is yelling at him from behind. Now, does this doppelganger look anything like Paul Grinstead to you? That's my first question.
I was going to ask you a question. I was like, he's got like blonde hair.
It does not look like him at all.
I don't think it is him. I think it's got to be a double. It actually has to be a double, because either that or they dyed the guy's hair and he played two parts. But I paused it. I kept rewatching it, and I was like, this is not his doppelganger. But if you see him running away, he's got like a little smirk on his face too. You know what I mean? Which is kind of laughing, like, haha.
Right. Right. That was the. Yeah, I'm curious to how, maybe it's in your book that you just purchased, but how they shot that. And I mean, if it was supposed to be his doppelganger, it was really poorly casted, because it did not, in my opinion, it did not look like him at all. And I don't know what, technical things were available at that time to where, you couldn't shoot like a kind of a mirror image in the camera. A lot of the computer generated stuff.
But they did it earlier in the scene with Millicent sitting in the mirror of the thing.
Yeah, but they set up.
They couldn't do that.
They set up the shot in a mirror, so I mean, maybe they had more latitude in being able to set up those shots as opposed to that ending scene where I don't know how. I'm curious to see how they did that, because it did not look as legitimate, like you said. Of the previous scenes, look way more legitimate. I think that was actually Vera Miles. She was playing both parts, right. But at the end, Paul Grinstead's doppelganger, it was not him playing both parts. Obviously, there was like a stunt double or somebody put in there that did not look like him at all. But anyway,
yeah. So then he's like, "What? Where are you? Where are you? Whatever." So the episode comes to a close, and Rod Serling gives his information. Basically doing this narration at the end of the episode. So, Eric, I got a couple questions myself too, but I'll let you start. Go ahead. Tell me your thoughts on this episode so far.
Well, I got a couple questions as well, and then I'll try to give you a brief summary of what I thought. This episode grows on you. I didn't really like it. I thought it was plain and sort of just, the plot is very simple. The setting is very simple. There's hardly any music. It's really just a story, but I'm telling you, the story is simple, the plot is simple, but the acting is outstanding, top to bottom. And there aren't a lot of actors and actresses in it, but it's so well acted, and the story is good, obviously. And so it grows on you. It does grow on you. But the question I had, and we kind of covered this at some length earlier in the episode, and I don't want to really belabor the point, but my question was, can a doppelganger only be seen by his or her counterpart, or can it be seen by others around? That was my main question that I took away from the episode. Can the other people in the bus depot see? Obviously, we kind of answered that they can't see both at the same time. Only one person at a time is, visible to the people around them. But obviously, the counterpart can be seen simultaneously by both the real person and the doppelganger. And I already asked the question, why can't the bathroom attendant see the doppelganger sitting on the bench in the lobby when she's facing the door in the powder room? Both Miss Barnes and her twin are both in view at that point. So that was a continuity thing. Like, why couldn't the bathroom attendant see both of them when the door's wide open? And we talked about that a little bit. And then my last question, and we already talked about that, is why didn't Paul's twin look anything like him at the end?
Right.
So go ahead.
Well, here's what I'm taking. I've got several different scenarios that this could be. One, just from the subtleties of the clothing that's mostly dark by the washroom lady, Paul, Vera Miles. It's all dark clothing. And when I seen that thing that says dies in the background, that's when my mind shifted from a doppelganger or a death, purgatory, where you're stuck somewhere, you know what I mean, waiting to go on to your final destination or whatever.
Got you.
There's that. Is it like a Bermuda Triangle where they just get lost in here forever? One thing I noticed, here's something I just kind of put two and two together. When I saw his doppelganger at the end, Paul's running, and he's smiling like he's having a good time, like he's a kid. I wonder if he's the one that's been moving around the bags in the depot. Maybe he's a joker. You know what I mean? And he gets his kicks off of moving people's stuff around, seeing them flip out. Maybe they were both maybe they're in an insane asylum, and this is just, maybe both Paul and her are in an insane asylum already. And this is just, them thinking things like that, because the way that this thing goes, man, it could go so many different directions. And that's what I love about this. It is technically not only a fifth dimension, it's like a sixth, seventh, eighth dimension, because you don't know actually what is happening. Even though the plot was very simple, like, hey, this lady's seeing somebody, and it's herself. To me, it goes a lot deeper than that. And I've watched this like 5 times today, and every time I watch it, Vera Miles is outstanding in this. The ticket agent, he's hilarious, because I see that even his sayings, how he reminds me of myself, like we talked about with our kids. Then you got Paul, who I think is an outstanding gentleman. I just think it's very well done.
Yeah, for sure. If any paranormal activity would happen, I mean, the setting is perfect. A bus depot at 2:30 in the morning or whatever. If anything weird was going to happen, I mean, it would happen in a place like that. Think about it, because people are tired. They're just trying to get to their destination. And it's kind of a midway point to their destination, which would explain your theory of it being like a purgatory or a midway place or a holding place before they reach their final destination. People are tired, but you can't really sleep if you've traveled at all, and you're just wanting to get home, and then weird stuff starts to happen. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
But also, when people talk about purgatory, they're stuck there till either they do some good deeds or their family members
prayed out of purgatory. Yeah,
maybe that's why Paul finally at the end he got to run away, is because he did the good deed of staying there with Millicent the entire time, and that was his final task that he needed to do to escape the reality, and that's why he ran running down the street with that smile on his face.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, we really went down deep in the rabbit hole on this one. It's more complex than it is on the surface.
That's what the Twilight Zone does to you, because I know when we first started talking about this, just last night when we were recording, because we've recorded several of these in a row, you were like, oh, I hated this one. I was like, dude, there's so much here. I said, I love it. You're like, no, we'll see. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm telling you, that ticket agent, he ranks up there with one of the best performances of season 1. It just has to. Vera Miles.
Wow.
I just think this episode is really good.
All right.
I like him better than, what was it, Wiki or Warwinkle?
Wickwire?
Wickwire. From last episode. If they ever did a thing together with them two together, that thing would be outstanding. I don't know if they ever worked together, but if you could see them two together, putting the performances like they did in these last 2 episodes, it would be amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
So where do you place this in your episode list?
It's top 10 for sure. After I watched it several times, I'm going to start a list actually, and because I'm actually going to make a physical list, and I'm going to, for my own, and maybe you can make one, and we'll rank them. Yeah, we'll just keep moving them and adjusting them as we progress through. And also I just want to throw this in. Any of our listeners out there in computer land, For sure. Like, send us an MP3 clip, send us an email, insights that we miss. I mean, things. I mean, we're just two schlubs here, plotting through these episodes. But I know there are a lot of people out there that have their own opinions and they have their own explanation. I mean, man, send MP3 clips, send emails to the tragedy of cinema at gmail.com. We would love to hear from you and tell us what you think.
The more I watch this episode, the more I like it. I mean, it's definitely top tier of season 1. It may be even go up to top 5. I'll have to go back and look. Well, we still have to finish season 1. But I'm just saying, I just think the acting alone is so good. I mean, we've seen several episodes where the acting's just like those astronauts from the last one.
Yeah.
Not memorable. They don't. The caretaker was perfect. Great acting. The whole cast was great.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I can't just base it on one person. So for me, very well done. Well,
Agreed.
I think that's episode's coming down. You got anything last minute you would like to say, Eric?
Nope. I think we ran kind of long on this one anyway. We're about 42 minutes.
I think that's the way it's going to go now, especially when you watch it 5 times. You pick up so much stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, next is episode 22, I believe, and I think is that the execution one?
No, that is
no.
The Monsters Do on Maple Street.
Monsters Do on Maple Street, and it's another great one. It's another fantastic episode. So, well, until then, this episode's coming to a close, and Eric, take it away. And that's a wrap,
and cut.
Obscure metaphysical explanation to cover a phenomena. Reasons dredged out of the shadows to explain away that which cannot be explained. Call it parallel planes or just insanity. Whatever it is, you find it in the Twilight Zone.